I'm soaked in other people's sweat. My face, hot and red, is smashed against the mat beneath me, and I'm sucking in any amount of available air. An arm, easily twice the size of mine, grips around my neck like a cobra, cutting off both my breath and blood flow. My 2 legs and 1 arm are pinned. My lone, small hand paws at the threatening arm, searching for a space that might let me break the choke. If I don't find a way to escape, and it's likely I won't, I'll either tap or pass out within seconds. I tap, the clinch releases, and I roll away from my opponent, giggling and huffing for air. I jump back to my feet, smiling ear to ear, and dive back into the arms of my inevitable defeat. I've been practicing no-gi Brazilian jiu-jitsu for the last 1.5 years, and I can't get enough. I came to BJJ to learn self-defense and for the challenge of a new physical practice. But I fell in love with the raw, pure physical play of this art. The exchange of exerting and receiving physical pressure simply for the joy of it. Play researcher Dr. Stuart Brown calls this kind of play rough and tumble play. At the gym, we simply call it smashing. Rough and tumble play is instinctive and a crucial element in healthy social development in children. However, eventually we are socialized out of tackling our friends and learn to play nice. BJJ is wholly animal, close to the ground, sensory, free of language, and requires absolute embodied presence. Jiu-jitsu is also deeply human. My coach tells stories about how people admit to driving to the gym and sitting in the parking lot for weeks before they build up the courage to walk in. My first 6 to 8 months of rolling, or grappling, were an exercise in humiliation as I flopped around like a disoriented fish while being submitted every 3 seconds. Jiu-jitsu slays the ego. And there's something counterintuitive to our rational human brains to keep going back for more. Picture a baby learning to walk. She pushes and pulls her way to standing. She takes a few wobbly steps and falls back to the ground, then pushes and pulls her way to standing again. She does this compulsively, on repeat. Sometimes she shrieks, sometimes she grunts, but she keeps going. It's her mission. We all start out with this uninhibited impulse to become. We get up, we fall, we get up again. Then we become self-conscious, and this inherent drive becomes filtered. When I was 6 years old, the city of Rochester turned 150. There was a year-long celebration, and at one of the culminating events, I danced a ballet solo on an outdoor public stage in front of hundreds of people. I don't have any recollection of being nervous about this. When I look back at photos, I look content, at ease. I was a dancer, and it was just another fun day of dance. 2 years later, I'm in the 4th grade. For the first time, my friendships are becoming central features of my life. My best friend and I buy all the same outfits when we go shopping. I mostly let her pick. I have my first real crush. Social dynamics are becoming real and complicated for the first time. I'm the most awkward I will ever be in my life, including a haircut by my little sister that left my bangs a 1/2 inch long and crooked. There's a 4th grade Christmas play in which every child has a part. I'm horrified by the idea of this public exposure. I thankfully end up with the smallest part, the mail carrier. I have one line in less than 30 seconds on stage. My job is to deliver Santa's letters from children around the world. I walk on stage and my voice cracks. Mail call, Santa. I feel the trembling in my body even as I speak these words 40 years later. At some point, we all transition from the dancer who dances to the kid trying to fit in. When I first started rolling in BJJ, it was deeply uncomfortable. Wearing a mouthguard felt extremely awkward. I was the only woman and one of the oldest and smallest people in the room. The experienced belts complained about working with me right to my face because I was so bad. It was 4th grade all over again. I never wanted to go. Yet, I kept returning. I knew that the only way to get better was time on the mat. My coach told me I wouldn't know what I was doing for the first 6 months. And although I knew these things, it didn't make it any less humiliating. But something in me recognized that meeting that humiliation was exactly where I needed to go. So I kept returning with migraines through snowstorms after grinding 40 hours a week on my feet. Months in, I started to be able to play defense. I could hold my ground, even if only for a few seconds, and occasionally I'd escape. I worked on developing my tolerance for discomfort. Instead of flopping, I started to keep up my fight. As I gave up any ideas of being good or winning at this practice, I yielded to my vulnerability and embraced the humiliation in service of whatever it was that I was meant to learn there. The feedback in jiu-jitsu, unmediated by language, lands in the body with immediacy. It's full contact, nervous system to nervous system. My body learned faster than my mind could make sense of. I relinquished my mind to the process and became a participant in my own becoming. I was changing in ways I didn't yet understand. All I knew was that it was delightful. I was once again the toddler learning to walk, anchored in that inherent drive and unfiltered play. In 2019, I moved to Ithaca, New York, in the heart of the Finger Lakes, to experiment with more rural living. I was most excited about the endless trails lined with waterfalls for exploring. The day after I moved, I went out to my first trail. At the trailhead, I found a sign that said something along the lines of, "A woman was recently raped on this trail and another nearby trail in Ithaca. These crimes are currently being investigated. Exercise caution and report anything suspicious." I couldn't believe it. The freedom I felt in the forest, alone, at home, unhurried, was the most nourishing thing in my life. I had fought hard for the freedom I felt there, and now a rogue man in the woods was threatening to take it back. I was indignant. I decided I wasn't going to live with this vulnerability and fear that had haunted the background of my life for as long as I could remember. The fear of being raped around every dark corner and in every wild place. In that moment, I took a vow to learn how to defend myself. A couple of weeks ago, my mom sent me a news clip about a man flashing women on a trail that I frequent. I wrote back, "I dare someone." As I considered this potential threat, I became aware of what my body learned over the last year of receiving regular beatdowns. In recent months at jiu-jitsu, I've held dominant positions with people much bigger but less skilled than me. I've surprised myself and my practice partners with my defense, my escapes, and my strength. I realize that while I'm very much still a beginner on the mats, I've developed some real skill in the civilian world. Defending myself has become reflexive. Diving back in is the forward momentum of attack awakened within me. I'm a different person than I was when I stood at that trailhead in Ithaca. Fierceness has arrived in my body. Fierceness is standing strong while remaining receptive. It's the art of wielding a sharp tongue without drawing blood, the fortitude to protect and defend, not from ego, but from integrity. And at its core, fierceness holds tenderness. Fierceness doesn't exist without its sacred partner, vulnerability. Choosing to return to the humility of rolling again and again was an act of vulnerability. I chose to be exposed in my incompetence, in my awkwardness, in my weakness. And the deepest expression of vulnerability on the mat is learning to trust the person who could destroy you. There's a strange paradox that I feel safest in the clinch of the most fierce grapplers in the room, the brown and black belts. Grapplers advance in jiu-jitsu not merely based on execution of technique, but also on sensitivity and the ability to manage energy. Advanced jiu-jitsu becomes increasingly fluid and receptive. While these experts have the ability to take me out in an instant, my nervous system relaxes with their presence. Their bodies acutely perceive my space and theirs. They attune to my next move before it enters my own awareness. Like a cobra preparing to strike, they simply wait until I expose myself with an unguarded neck, a loose arm, or a dangling leg to attack. The submission goes on quickly, easily, often more akin to a hug than a choke, and before I know what's happening, I'm tapping. What I've found through this practice of rough and tumble play is that every tap can become an offering to the one of me that wanted to lay down and nap rather than go to the gym and roll, an offering to the one that got up and went anyway, an offering to the animal of me, an offering to the one that fell down and learned to walk again many times in this life, an offering to the carefree dancer, to the fourth grader that was equally terrified and longing to be seen, an offering to the explorer of me that wandered trails and got lost at dusk in the forest more than once. The one that feared rape, the one that was raped, and the one who stood at that trailhead and said, "Never again." The one that wields daggers and the one that rolls over to expose her soft belly. It is an offering to the one of me that doesn't know what's on the other side of the sacrificial risk, but gives herself to it anyway. And now, a question for you. What did you lose when you learned how to play nice? And what would it take to go back for it? I'd love to hear what's stirring in you. Read the full piece, leave a comment, and learn more about coaching at Playground at the Edge on Substack. And if you're not already subscribed, join us. A seasonal playlist is coming in a couple of weeks.